But you'll burn out far quicker if you don't have a purpose. You can only fill someone else's cup when your cup is full. You have to safeguard or protect your own energy. My story is ultimately 10, 15 years of pure failure. I had a bit of a breakdown one day. I came home and I was crying in the kitchen and I just felt empty inside. I felt like I was purposeless. I felt like it didn't set my world on fire. I felt I was going to cry there. I don't want to be the best. I want to be the most improved. Because that journey is so much better. Can you imagine when it's all said and done, you can say I went from this to this. It's no secret, it's no magic bullet. It is literally the thing that will keep you consistent every week. Nothing else is it. This is episode 127 of the ContentCAST. Now I'm doing something a little bit different for you all because a lot of people have asked, Ads, come on the podcast yourself without a guest, would like to see that. So I thought I'd do that for you. Now obviously I've sat down with 130 odd people. Some episodes obviously haven't gone out for certain reasons, but what I've done is I've put together 50 quotes, 50 powerful quotes, everything I've learned about doing the podcast, where I'm at, the knowledge, the wisdom, any kind of tips that you might want if it comes to starting your own podcast, building a business, understanding the minds of people who I've had on the podcast, and where my head's at, I guess, where things that I've learned along the way. Now, what I do want to say is none of these quotes are from ChatGPT. These are quotes that I've sat down, thought about, wrote notes about, and compiled them into lovely little quotes for you to digest. So quote number one, let's get into it. So this one is unbelievable. If you look at your favorite podcaster right now, at the start of that podcast, when they first started, you've got to remember nobody knew their name. Their voice hadn't been heard before. So if you've got your eyes on trying to chase clout, you're trying to chase a following, you're trying to chase any kind of social media status, you've got to remember it's going to take such a long period of time to get to that point if you are at all successful. And the statistics of growing a podcast are fucking horrendous. So you've got to remember, chase the consistency. Put episodes out every single day, week, month, whatever your plan is. Just be consistent at it. Don't chase the clout, don't chase all of that, because that can come later. Chase being consistent every single week. So perfect example of this, if you've been following the channel, you'll notice last week's episode, it underperformed, absolutely flopped. Now, that's not taking anything away from the guest, of course. He was unbelievable. The amount of stuff I learned off him, the amount I learned from myself. But the fact that it bombed and flopped and the views didn't do well, if I focused on that, it would definitely impact me negatively for the next episode. And that happens in life. It happens in anything. So if you focus on the performance of something over anything else, you're going to be focusing purely on that metric. Try and focus on the overarching theme, and that has always got to be consistency, and that'll get perfection. Even if you look at your favourite music artist, actor, doesn't matter who it is, there's got to have been a period of time, you've got to remember, when they were unheard of, they weren't seen. So again, just because that podcast episode hadn't been seen by a lot of people doesn't mean that the podcast in general hasn't been seen. The more you focus on doing it consistently is going to get you seen eventually. This one blows me mind because in business, I remember grafting for 10 years, at least 10 years, for completely free. Didn't make any money. I was absolutely skint. I've actually talked about this in a talk, which I can send you the link if you want it. And when I delivered that keynote, the reason I brought that up was purely because people want results straight away. People are almost above themselves when it comes to, no, I'm only doing it if I get paid. Now, that's absolutely fine. But remember, if you're trying to build something, you're ultimately trying to build a life that is fucking unbelievable. So who would you, the way I always talk to myself is, who do I think I am to not do something for free? Ultimately, remember the trade-off. If I win and I get to where I want to be, I'm going to have the best life in the world. So just put the free work in. And as well as that, free work gets you in the door a lot of the time. There's a lot of jobs I've done for free and I never really wanted to. But because I did it for free, I got to show them the value. Whereas if I put a price there, that would have probably been a barrier to entry. Without that price, okay, ads, come in, do the job, let's see who you are. Because there was no friction involved. They just got me in. And then once they understood that, actually, it's time to pay this guy. And that works across anything. So just don't be scared or don't turn your nose up at doing free work, free labour. It's fucking unbelievable. No matter what stage you are on your journey, value is something you can bring to the table no matter what. However, going viral is something that you can't predict. It doesn't matter, Mr. Beast himself can't tell that he's going to go viral. You could have 100 million subscribers on YouTube and you can't say that your video is going to go viral. A lot of the subscribers who actually watch my podcast, they don't even watch a lot of the episodes. you rude bastards. So it doesn't matter. But what I can always do is, and what I can always guarantee, that I'm going to bring my A game, offer the most value possible, like I am trying to do in this episode. And if someone wants to take something from that and they're impacted enough, they might even share it, thus making you potentially go viral. When I started the podcast, one thing I used to always struggle with when I was younger was having deep conversations with people who I thought were ahead of us. So I used to feel like I was getting in a bit of a pickle, if you like, or I'd be overwhelmed with conversations, or I'd feel like people were too smart for us. And I thought, how do I get better at that? I need to speak to these smart people. But if I'm feeling a little bit thick, or if I'm feeling that I haven't got the same vocab as them, or I'm going to be in a different room to them and I can't compete with them mentally or intellectually or, in any way really, if I feel that way, which I know that a lot of people do, the only way to perfect that or get better at it is to be in them rooms. So the podcast is a pure example of that. The reason I set up this podcast was to selfishly get better at having conversations with people, and there's no better challenge than sitting with your phone down in a room, facing a camera or a guest, and shooting the shit for an hour. If you're on a journey, see it as always laying bricks. Podcast, great example. Every single episode is a brick. Ultimately, we want to build a house. We need to build foundations first, of course. So try and perfect those little things. Conversational skills, having your rule of thirds, having decent lighting, decent audio, a decent camera. But remember, all those things are nice to have and they can help you improve your game, but they're not necessary from the start. If you've got no budget, you haven't got a lot of money, it doesn't matter. Start with whatever you do have. So when you do that, if you start with budget equipment, for argument's sake, you use your iPhone or you use a phone to film yourself. That's your first brick. You've laid that brick because you've used a phone. The next brick might be doing 2 episodes with the phone. The next brick might be doing 3, but then the next brick could be getting a better camera, investing in yourself, going on a course, understanding how to have better conversational skills. Again, lighting, audio setup, doesn't matter what it is, whatever industry you're in, try and perfect it. But anything you do, adding that 1%, adding that marginal gain is just laying another brick. Don't focus on the bigger picture, the house, focus on laying the bricks. So I've used this example about the mic purely because I've got a podcast. It doesn't matter about the actual equipment. It's all about the skill that you have. For instance, the reason I used a good question's better than a flashy mic is that one question I ask a guest could literally dictate if the podcast's good or bad. The kind of microphone I've got isn't the thing. That's just another thing that adds a level of quality to the audio. It's not about the actual conversation. I would have exactly the same podcast, exactly the same conversation if I used no mic at all. It's about the question that makes a good podcast. The audio just helps. And it's the same as you in your life. It's about the actual skill that you have, you're working on, and what you possess, rather than the equipment that you've got. So I guess this one's about not always going surface level. Sometimes you've got to go deep in order to get what you need out of that situation. And that can work in sales, that can work in having a podcast, that can work in starting a business. If you're trying to sell something to someone, for argument's sake, and you ask them a question, they might turn around and say yes or no. Okay, so I'll make an example purely off the fly here. I'm trying to sell a mobile phone. Have you got a mobile? Yes. Okay. Do you want a new one? No. Instantly, conversation's done. However, if I ask something as simple as, could your mobile phone be better? If they say yes, and I say how, they could then turn around and say something like, could have a better camera, it could have a better operating system, it could have a better, whatever it may be, it doesn't really matter. But that then lets me know that I can offer a solution, I can offer more value, I can solve their problem. And that's exactly the same. It's the same as, again, if we use podcasting as an example, I've had people who I've sat down with and they may have done 20 years in prison. And I'm thinking, right, the conversation's going to be about their prison sentence. They would come in the room and the first question I could just randomly ask, because I don't script the podcast, I could turn around and say, what did you have for lunch today? Just purely off the fly. And he turns on and he says, well, I caught some fish, so I had fish. Bang, I know now he's a fisherman or he's into fishing, whatever. That could literally spur or dictate the rest of that episode. So it's about being deeper than just surface level. But that, again, might be a really bad example, but just understand, don't always scratch the surface. Sometimes there's a need to just go that little bit deeper. And as well, people get stimulating conversations when you go deeper. Not everyone wants to know just about footy bets and what happened at the match. sometimes it's better to have stimulating conversation. You'll find out more about that person, ultimately more about yourself. So I learned how to breathe a little bit more when it came to a podcast. So I would be very agreeable or yes. So I'd ask a question. What was it like in prison? And they would say it was really bad because this happened. And in between, I would turn around and say something like or yes. But actually, if I pause, not only does it allow for emphasis, because that actually makes it a bit more dramatic, which is nice. Everyone likes to be entertained in some way, shape or form. But it actually gives them more breathing time and more thinking time to go deeper in themselves and for that conversation. But again, that applies to anything. If you're doing a job for somebody, no matter what you're doing, if you're starting a business, you're working in 9 to 5, if you do a job, give yourself that time to think as well. It doesn't always have to be autopilot doing it. Switch off, do the task, and breathe. You could even go back to that task. You'll put so much more into it. You just need, if you've never tried this technique, just letting someone breathe or letting yourself breathe, even before, during, or after a task, you'll get so much more out of it. Now, this is a bit of a controversial one, but I'm kind of on the line of that. So I'll always err on the side of this. And there's been a shitload of times when I've sat down with someone, I'm thinking, I shouldn't be asking this question. Maybe this is going to make someone feel a certain way. Now, of course, I'll always respect someone. Regardless of who they are, I'll always give them respect. But at the same time, I know that if that question's bubbling, it's probably worth an answer. And them answers are often the best. So if it's in content creation, sometimes you'll find that if there's a video where you're like, I don't know if I should make that, that is often the video that will go viral, or that's the video that you should make. And what I will say as well, I just want to add this on. You can actually apply that to yourself. If you've got a question inside that you know hasn't been answered, you should probably ask that question. Could be your partner, could be your mum, your dad, your brother, your cat, your dog. Doesn't matter who it is. If you know there's something that you haven't been asking, ask the question, because it can make your life so much easier. Try it. This one is for the content creators of the world. And a lot of people will find stumbling blocks when it comes to creating content for a client or for themselves in the gym. And some people, when I'm filming people on set, what you'll find is I might be doing an interview, or I might be doing a gym video with an athlete, a boxer. It doesn't matter who it is. They might not understand or might feel like they've got nothing to offer that video. So they might be like, I'm a bit stuck. I don't know what to record. It's your job as a creator, as a podcast host, as a businessman, to get that out of them. Ultimately, again, you can offer a solution, which is mint because you look resourceful, you're valuable to that person, thus leading you a better relationship to a client. But secondly, it's kind of your duty. Like, if somebody's hiring you, you're not just a camera operator. If you want to be a content creator, and if you want to actually help someone and provide value, then make sure that you can come up with them answers. Get them reels out of them. Get them to talk to you. Get them to talk about things they've never talked about. That's often the best content, and you can apply that to any area of your life. Now, this one is arguably one of the truest quotes I think I've ever written down. And it's all on emotions. And when you're casting your mind back, have you ever been in a scenario where you've had a conversation with someone and you can hardly remember what they even said? However, you can remember how you felt. So you could have been doing for instance, we'll go back to that again. I'm a speaker, I know. But when I did that keynote, half of the shit that I said on stage, I can't even remember what I said, but what I definitely can remember, and I'll remember till the day I die, was how I felt when I walked out on stage. I remember when I turned around and I did a selfie with the crowd. I remember some of the noises that the crowd were spitting out, but I remember those emotions, that feeling, that adrenaline dump after, listening to the music in the green room before I went out. All these things, 'cause again, I'd never done it before. So I remember the excitement, I remember the emotion, I remember the anxiety, the nerves, not being able to sleep the night before, the sweaty palms, the dry mouth. I remember all those things and how I felt. Half the shit I said I can't even remember now. So again, when somebody tells you a story, or you tell somebody else a story, or you're working with somebody, try and place emphasis on how you make that person feel rather than what you do. Now, this one is perfect and aligns with me. Now, I've lived this a lot. I've pitched to clients who've got 1 million followers, 2 million followers, 3 million followers. The content that I've created, it just hasn't performed. Now, that could be down to me, or that could be down to the client, or that could be down to the algorithm, I guess. But if a client has 1 million followers, you'd think the content would perform. They've got 1 million people ready to watch, ready at their disposal. It's not about the clout of the client. It's not about the name of the episode. If I use the podcast as an example, we've had some names on that are worldwide. Episode hasn't performed. It's about the story. And I've just as much chance as going outside here and pulling someone off the street in getting an unbelievable, massively performing episode, which could elevate the podcast into a whole new realm. But you'd think, logically, if they've got a following, it would work, but it's not always the case. So remember, it's exactly the same in business. Just because someone's got more money, someone's got a bigger following, someone's more hench, and you're working with athletes, doesn't matter. It's often about what you can create with that person than the actual luggage that it would bring. So we're all wowed by people's success, the accolades, where they are in life. I think it's natural. If you look at somebody who's achieved greatness, you kind of gravitate towards them, or you're impressed by them in some way, or whatever it may be. You may want to be like them. I know when I was certainly younger, I wanted to be like certain people. I had role models, and I'd looked at the cars, and I looked at the houses, and the flights around the world, and everything like that, and I was like, I want to be like that. But if that happened to you, and you looked at the same people, if someone said, right, well, they were given it all and didn't work for it, how much would you be impressed by? So for me, the success lies in the actual story of how they got there rather than the end result. And I think that's something to really focus on. Now, I definitely focus on someone's, regardless of level. If we look at boxing, for argument's sake, if I worked with a guy who'd had 4 fights, but actually his story into the gym, he'd had to overcome some serious adversity to get there, that would impress me and inspire me so much more than someone who won 4 fucking world titles and they just were good. It's all about, for me, overcoming something to get to that point. And that's why I look at a lot of people who are in business, because a lot of people, what you find is people who've got a lot of money were once in a really bad state. They either couldn't afford food, they couldn't afford clothes, they struggled day to day. I mean, and I would challenge you to do the same. Go and have a look. Look at your favourite person who's, super successful. They've probably been through some kind of trauma or certainly faced adversity. And for me, that's the success. It's not where they're at now. Again, a little bit like the last point there, I think ultimately them stories of how someone achieves something is where the real goal lies, is where the real lessons lie. That's how you can actually be a better person. It's how you can get that 1% every day in life. If you look at how things were and how things have got to where they are, that's where the gold is, that's where the wisdom is, that's where the nuggets are. If you're hiring a mentor or you're looking at somebody that you're potentially inspired by, look at what they did to get to where they are. Don't look at where they are. Who gives a shit if they're driving a Lamborghini? Who gives a shit if they're making 10 grand a month, 100 grand a month? That matters not at all. It's about what they did to get to that point. It is more impressive if someone struggled, never made a single penny at all, and they were making £1,000 a month, than someone who was making 10 grand and now they're making 15. That it's not about that. It's more about the knowledge and the wisdom that you're going to find is literally in the journey. When you're creating content, I would always create content with good intentions, a pure heart, and just be real to yourself. Didn't bullshit yourself and be like, well, I am being real, mate. No. Be real. Be vulnerable. Put the content out that makes you feel uncomfortable because you know it's real. When you're recording content, you're in your own space, your own bedroom, your own apartment, your own house, you're around your family. When you are at your truest self, that is literally the only version that you need to put out in the world, because this is why. It is the only version of content that you can make again and again and again. If you blag yourself and you put on a persona and you try and copy the next person, or you try and copy this person or that person, that's going to get you to come unstuck. That's going to run well away with you. You just can't keep that up. You need to be true to yourself. I mentioned earlier about the different variables, your audio, your lighting, your camera setup. You are far better off focusing on producing good content than worrying about audio. Good content with average audio is always going to beat something that sounds unbelievable but the content's shit. Ultimately, focus on making things that inspire you. Focus on something that you want to create and that you're proud of. The audio, the lighting, you can improve them, of course. The better you are in all of them, you're going to create a better video or a better piece of content. But ultimately, focus on the quality of the content, not the production. Focus on the quality of the content, not the production, and that's going to elicit a better video. The reason I mentioned this one is because in my journey, I used to think about just putting content out, not really thinking about how that content looked. And I've put polished, but it doesn't have to be polished. It's got to be real and something that you're proud of. I used to focus on, have I posted 10 times a week? Have I posted an episode every week? It's about the quality. Now, yes, there is definitely a fine line. You can't only put one piece of content every few months because the algorithm is going to tell you otherwise. They want to keep you on the platform and they're going to serve the people who serve the platform the most. So you've got to be consistent, but don't just force content. And that's why I put that in basically. Like, make sure your content's right and then be consistent. Don't just be consistent with shit content. When you're editing your videos, ultimately what you want to do is remove all the friction for the viewer. So take out the bullshit. If you're trying to tell a story, and the story is this: I went to the shop for a can of Coke. And that's the story. That's the message you want to deliver, right? But instead, you say something along the lines of, I went to the shop with me cat and bought a can of Coke. That with my cat piece does not add anything to that story. If the story you're wanting to tell is you went to the shop for a can of Coke, the cat, the dog, the sun, none of that matters. It doesn't help that story along. So always look at that when you're editing. Try and get to the point as quick as you physically can. And I promise you, your videos will grow faster. So although I've said that the content is the thing that would outshine amazing audio, and that's still true, but try not to get lost in shit audio. Nobody likes to listen to someone shit. Yes, you don't have to be in a studio like this. You don't have to have a Shure microphone. You don't have to have a camera set up with lighting like I have in here. You don't have to have that. But people will gain your trust, or you will gain other people's trust rather, if you can have clean audio in some way, shape or form. It doesn't have to be polished, it doesn't have to be edited. You don't have to put it through Audacity or Adobe or any of this shit. Just have something nice to listen to because you'll gain their trust. If somebody knows that you're taking pride and taking care of how your videos sound, they're going to trust you that little bit more. And that could be the difference of making a sale, producing a better piece of content, the content going viral, getting growth, getting followers. That could literally be the only gain that you need to make. And the reason I've used the word fingerprint is because it becomes your identity, your voice. The things you put on social media, whether you like it or not, do become your identity. You're never going to remove the content off the internet. It's always on there forever. And the way I look at that is, when I started this podcast, I know there's a certain narrative, there's a certain... People are going to have painted a picture of ads of me, right? So they're going to think, he's this way inclined, this is the type of person he is, these are the type of guests he speaks to. By watching this, if you watch enough of my content now, you can probably get a good understanding of who I am. And if you met us in person, I know you'd say the same thing. The people who I have met on the streets who've watched the podcast, they've said exactly the same thing. So be careful. If you feel like you are very, I don't know, for argument's sake, let's say you're an aggressive person. And yes, you've got to be true to yourself, and your content may be aggressive, and that may be your edge. But just remember, if you think that could damage your reputation in any way, shape, or form, maybe it's best you don't put it out. Or you do, and you lean into it, and you own it. But the purpose of that message about the fingerprint, and that's why I use that, again, make sure that if you're going to go that way, remember, this is going to be what people see, because everybody paints a picture of someone, whether they've met them or not. If they're consuming you enough, they will make your identity for you. So if you are that way, or whatever way you are, make sure you totally lean into that and own it, because remember, that literally forms your identity online. So a bit like the comment about just being true to yourself and just making content that you're proud of, you don't need to overproduce that. Some of my best performing videos are videos that I've not even put any effort into. And when I say effort, yes, I'll try and give some kind of effort on the production, and of course, because I'm proud in the things I put out. But the best performing content is where I've just been unapologetically myself and just had a conversation, not really thought too much about it, just had good intentions, a good art, been respectful to the guest, or walked around some raggy estate and just said my thoughts. Simple as that. And some of the content that I've produced, has been the best with that method. Now, with the content PT business, when I've spoke to people and just been myself, I haven't tried to be over-polished. I haven't tried to overproduce anything. I've just been me. And what you find is people understand you for you that way. If you try and over-polish things, well, for one, you're giving yourself more work. If you try and overproduce stuff, again, more work. But again, it leans into that. It's not authentically you if you're overdoing anything. So a little bit like what I've just said there, like if you've got good intentions and a good heart, yes, of course you want to have, if you're like me, you're going to be super proud of your production. You're going to want things to look and feel a certain way, especially if you're a brand person or you're trying to build something. But ultimately, it's about your intentions, it's about your heart. That is always going to matter more than the level of the fucking production you've got. So a bit like I said on the last one, in regards to the good heart and good intentions, the best podcasts that you can possibly create and the best podcasts I've ever created, they're not perfect podcasts, are they? Like, to me, I always think I could have made that better. However, when I went into that room and had that conversation, I'd give it my intention. I just had good intentions when I was doing it. Same as I spoke with conviction. I knew the message or the whatever I was trying to portray or the question I was trying to get, the answer I was trying to derive from them, it was all with the right intention. It's the same in business, exactly the same. Can we work a deal out in business? If I'm trying to get a lead, have I got the right intentions? I'm not here to try and rip you off. I want to do something that's going to provide a service or value to you. In return, can you pay us? Of course. Can we co-create? Can we collaborate on something? There's a trade-off. We're both going to win from this. Because my intentions are right, that's why the Content PT business has been successful in the podcast. Touch wood, is going to keep growing at the rate it's growing. So when it comes to creating content, when it comes to starting a business, starting a podcast, it's all about the habits you build. Now the thing that's going to give you the most longevity is the creativity, because that's going to allow you to create new stuff time after time. Again, if you use it in business, generate new leads, come up with new strategies, new content creation plans. It doesn't matter what it is. But in order to keep doing that, the creativity can fuse out. It's the discipline that is the engine behind all of that. So if you don't have that discipline in yourself, how are you going to keep being creative? You can have the most creative people in the world who literally, I mean, look at a singer, random example, but they might write a song, they might do fuck all with it, or they might not even finish an album because they don't have that discipline to keep going. And when creativity gets hard, it's discipline that'll keep you going. When I'm creating content and coming up with ideas for clients or looking for podcast guests or whatever, I've got certain working blocks within that day. So I will make sure that every Monday morning I've got 4 hours where I dedicate to X, Y, and Z. That discipline, no matter how I feel, every single Monday that task gets completed. That allows me to be creative without fail every single week. And that is fucking massive if you're someone with creative blocks, or you struggle with coming up with new ideas in general, or you're someone who struggles to build something. It's often the lack of discipline, not the lack of creativity. To follow up from that one, a good little tip for you is to batch create your content. It's no secret, it's no magic bullet. It is literally the thing that will keep you consistent every week. Nothing else to say. So a little bit like that working block, every Monday I'll work for 4 hours and plan my content or plan my clients or whatever my working block happened to be for that Monday. Before that, I was sporadic. I used to justify it like it's all this chaos. I fucking love chaos. I thrive in it. This is what it's all about. It's chasing, it's hunting, it's finding new clients, new business, coming up with new ideas. But that will only get you so far. If that's all over the place, you just can't be consistent. So putting some or implementing some kind of system is going to let you optimize your workflow, ultimately give you a better business or a better podcast or a better relationship. Yes, you can definitely systemize that and all. Now, I have definitely suffered a lot with burnout. There's been certain spells in my life when I've really struggled with it, and it comes out of nowhere. You just feel flat all the time. You feel like you can't get your mojo, you can't create, you feel like you don't want business, you just feel like you just kind of had enough. If the purpose and you understand why you're doing what you're doing is great enough, that's gonna allow for that burnout to not happen as much. I can't say it won't happen ever, because it still might, but you'll burn out far quicker if you don't have a purpose with what you're doing. In life, try and think that you've always got a co-host, and I call that co-host momentum. And that momentum is something that will keep you through life. Like, remember, if you're doing a podcast, it's the previous podcast that'll get you onto the next one. It's that momentum. It's the previous energy you got. It's the previous, you might have had a pat on the back. Someone told you it was a good episode. Someone gave you a comment. It's those things that you have to use as leverage for momentum, because momentum doesn't just come out of nowhere. Again, I've mentioned this a lot, but it's consistency which gives you momentum. Obviously, without any consistency, you're not going to have the momentum. But just see it as a little, it sounds mad this, but see it as a little buddy that you've got traveling with you anywhere. Like, you could be going to a new client. Well, did I get a client last week? Did I try last week? That's momentum you've got. So see that as your co-host or co-pilot through your life. I know that sounds mad, and I've used co-host as an analogy because of a podcast and the kind of format we're doing this video, but that's how you kind of have to think of things, and it will get you through some fucking shit situations. So you can see your life in chapters or seasons, and I've put seasons down here because, again, the way I look at it is there's going to be super cool times, there's going to be times when you're kind of on your own and you've got to grind it out. But when you break from something, so with a podcast, that's happened, something that's happened to me recently, the team I've got round us with a podcast, they're no longer going to be with me moving forward. That's then going to allow me to start again in a way. Now, yes, I'm not starting the podcast again. It will still be going every single week, but you'll definitely see new types of guests, new types of production. And I have to see that as not a negative thing. I see that as a chance to do something fucking super special. And I've done that in business plenty of times. There's been so many times when I've went down one particular avenue and I've basically rinsed it, or I've fucking rode it till the wheels fell off. And then I've went, actually, let's take a step back. Let's take a few weeks out. And I don't necessarily mean a few weeks out from working, but just change my ways a little bit for a couple of weeks. And you give yourself that time to literally, it almost feels like you're being reborn again. It feels like you've got another crack at the whip. It gives you that momentum back, gives you that mojo back, it gives you that chance to go, right, okay, what was fucking shit about that last situation? What did that thing not work out for us for? What was the reason that wasn't the goal? And that's what you can use to allow you to kind of pivot, change direction, or fucking excel on the next chapter or season of your life. You can only fill someone else's cup when your cup is full. You probably heard that quote, haven't you? But in order to do that, you have to safeguard or protect your own energy. And I think that's massively under talked about. People try and go through this grind fucking culture, and I work from 4 in the morning till 12 at night, and I've definitely been guilty of that for many years. I 100% have. But what I do notice is when I perform better, or when I'm on my ear game on a podcast or something like that, it's when I've actually done less that day. So isn't it ironic? People promote grafting the fucking arse off, which I guess you've kind of got to learn. You've got to learn to develop that, knowing how to graft, because it's required. But a lot of the best work happens when I've grafted least, and this is mad. And I'm going to give you a random example I've just thought about there. Can you imagine going to watch your local footy team? So Sunderland fans in the house, if you're watching, if you go and watch Sunderland play 90 minutes, might win 1-0 on a good day. Can you imagine that game being 7 hours and 90 minutes? Do you think they perform better or worse? Well, they've had more practice. They've ran more. They'd perform worse, wouldn't they? It's exactly the same in life. There's no difference at all. So remember, protect your energy and you'll be able to do a better job. So if you're someone who struggles with content creation, when you put a camera in the room and you want to try and post that first video, which I always talk about, I always say post that fucking video, book the flight, do that thing that you've wanted to do for so long. I always tell people to do that. I always implore or urge people to do it. But the way to overcome that lack of confidence, because mate, if you haven't posted a video before, why would you have the confidence, right? So the best way to do it is just pretend the camera is your mate and just speak to it like your mate. So again, I literally have these conversations with people sitting, I mean, you can't see, but there's people sitting in the room right now. Although I'm looking at a camera, I'm vicariously speaking to me mate in the room. And that's how I feel most comfortable. That's how I feel like when you're watching this, you'll think, well, he doesn't seem awkward. It's because I'm not awkward. I'm speaking to someone. And yes, if you're watching this, I can't fucking see you. But to you, it looks like I'm in this studio all wooden and done. But no, I'm just speaking to a friend. And simple as that. And if you haven't got any friends or no one around you, just pretend you're speaking to someone behind the camera. Have a bit crack. And trust us, you'll get much better with your confidence. So with this one, I started a community called The Content Life very recently. And now I don't have a following. Well, I don't have a big following. And I used to look at other people in the industry. Certainly ones who were mentors, mentorships that I've been part of. And I used to look at them and think, wow, they've got a massive following. No wonder they've got all these clients and all these mentees or these numbers in this community. And then I realised very quickly, when I promoted the Content Life, and that is a platform for people who basically want to potentially leave the 9-to-5 job, get better at content creation, move the fucking needle, or they're sick of the fake friends in the workplace and they want to just network with a bunch of people, or they want to go on content trips or just get better or utilize social media to build a fucking life that they love. And I was so passionate about this thing, and I've been part of mentorships over the years. And I just thought, I'm just going to fucking tell my story because I don't have a following. So all I can do is just tell my story. My story is ultimately fucking 10, 15 years of pure failure. That's all it is. That's not, that's the crack. Like, I had multiple different businesses. Every single one of them fucking bombed, failed. I had a bit of a breakdown. One day I came home and I was crying in the kitchen and fucking horrendous. I felt empty. I was going to a job, but it was the job I should have got. And everyone was like, Ads, you're the man, and you've got a good fucking job, you've got a good salary, you've bought a property, all this type of shit. But for me, I just felt empty inside. I felt like I was purposeless. I felt like it didn't fucking set my world on fire. So I just told people that. Now, again, because I don't have a following, I thought, well, see what happens. I posted that. Now, it did fucking phenomenal. That post absolutely flew. And the amount of messages that I got off the back of that post was fucking phenomenal. But you know one thing I noticed? There was a few people who joined the community off the back of that, which was mad. But I noticed how many people actually struggle in life and how many people are fucking scared to say anything. And it takes a post on social media by someone that they don't know to make it relatable. It absolutely blows my mind. And I knew then, well, I felt like that too, and I can help you. And I just feel like it's not about the following. It's about, a little bit earlier on when I said about being relatable and all that type of jazz and just being real and authentic. That's all I was. I wasn't trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. I wasn't trying to sell them some kind of, you'll make 10 grand a month. I'm like, look, I've got a fucking community here. Yes, I charge for it because I want to fucking put some work into this and I want to achieve some fucking results with you. But ultimately, this is something that I needed all them years ago. So why not fucking do it? And then I realised how many people felt exactly the same. So yeah, it doesn't really matter about anything other than your fucking story. And it clearly doesn't, you're not defined by your following, you're not defined by your numbers. And that's why I put that quote down. The story, what you tell, is the thing that's going to get the impact. Now bear in mind, you have got to bear in mind, I've been posting pretty much every day for fucking years. And nothing hit that differently. Nothing hit like that before. So that's just testament that your story, not a story, your story is what works. It's not about your following or numbers. I felt I was going to cry there. Jesus. Whoa, that was deep. Next one. So I put this quote because of the Content Life, the community. And yes, effectively, I was promoting a service, a community, if you like. But it was the purpose that I was promoting it. It wasn't the fact that I'm just here to try and sell something. It was more about why I was selling it, why I was trying to offer that service. It was the purpose and the intent that I had behind it. It wasn't about the, oh, fuck, what am I going to do? Just put something out. It was about the actual purpose. And I think that will always outweigh just doing something out of desperation or panic or whatever. Like, you need to have intent and have purpose behind anything you do, say, post. And things just get fucking easier, man. Don't worry about getting there tomorrow. Don't worry about getting there in a month's time, a year's time. Doesn't really matter. That'll happen anyway if you're consistent. Just take your time with it. understand you're nurturing something, you're watering a plant there, you remember, you're building a business, you're starting a podcast, you're starting a relationship, doesn't matter. You have to just grow that thing. If anyone's watching, you've got kids, it's a little bit like that. You don't want your kid to be 10 tomorrow, do you? Well, there's probably some people listening thinking I fucking do. But no, you want to make memories of all them times as well. And you want to make sure a bit like the brick analogy, you want to make sure every brick is laid perfectly. Not about quickly building the fucking house up because the foundation will be shit and it'll fall down. It's exactly the same as this. And the slower you grow, there's a good chance, in fact, I'm nigh on sure, that the stronger you'll grow as well. If you want to grow a podcast, a business, a brand, personal brand, doesn't matter what it is, you will grow if you look at it on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And that's what I meant by this one. Like, you've got to earn them stripes every single week and build that. Don't think about just trying to do everything tomorrow. You've got to earn your right. Like, can you imagine if I did this video when I did one episode and I'd never started a business? I don't really think I'd be in my right to doing it. It's the fact that I've did 136 episodes. I think I know how to have a conversation now, and I'm trying my best to get better. But secondly, I failed a shitload of business and then succeeded in one. I think I know how to not fail now because I've kind of proved that. You have to kind of earn the right. And I've said earn every week, but you kind of have to earn every right. Don't try and shoot a viral video. I think that's a one-trick pony. I think that's a one-hit wonder. I think what you want to build is some kind of community. You want to kind of build something that people can invest in. If you're on Instagram or whatever it may be, whatever platform you takes your fancy, if you look at series, they're fucking unbelievable. If you watch people who are starting Come Run With Me, Come Ready With Me, why do they do that? It's not because they're trying to create a viral video and catch a trend. There will be a part of that because other people are doing it and they know that that's what the algorithm's serving at the minute. But you've also got to remember it's offering buy-in to a potential viewer, recipient, fucking lead. It doesn't matter what it is. It's offering someone a reason to come back. That's why community's unbelievable. Like the lads I've got in my community at the moment, the value that they're getting, they understand it. They're building something themselves. It's not just me trying to build something. We're all building something collectively. It's not about trying to, I just want to join a community and just make money the next day. No, it's about being part of something. That kind of tribe mentality and understanding that there's people around you who feel like what you do, that shit will stand the test of time. So earlier on, I mentioned you kind of can't really take things off the internet once they're there. Somewhere in the ether, they're there. Remember your audience, right? It's almost like they are literally the mirror. So when you're creating some kind of content or you're posting something or you're trying to do something in some way, shape or form, that is literally a reflection of you. Whatever you post is what you're going to get back. So whatever you're going to put out there, whatever content you're going to create, whatever kind of business you're going to make, whatever podcast you're going to build, whatever kind of brand you're going to build, whatever kind of friendship, doesn't matter what it is. Ultimately, it's going to be a reflection of you. So whatever you want to be seen is the stuff you've got to act on. If you want to be seen as the guy who creates boxing content, then that's the only content you need to create. It's no good trying to do X, Y, and Z. You're going to absolutely confuse yourself and the people. When you look in that mirror, you're even going to think, what kind of person am I? What kind of identity am I creating online here? So the content that you put out consistently is the person that is going to show up every fucking day. This is why I started a podcast. I think this was, other than trying to learn about myself, this is something that's so fucking special. This is why everybody watching this or listening should start a podcast. 100%, man. Every single episode is not only marking a timestamp in my life, but secondly, I've mentioned this on other videos, there is hundreds of hours of footage online forever. And we'll say it's going to be forever. So if I wasn't here or something happened to me and I got knocked over by a bus tomorrow, my family can watch me for hours. Now imagine how cool that would be if you could flick on a YouTube channel and you just got hundreds of hours of your mum, your dad, your nanny, your gran, your son. Can you imagine how unbelievable that is? It's not about the views and the success. Fucking hell, if I can get all that, that's fucking brilliant. Cherry on the cake. But ultimately, who can take that away from us? When I'm 50 for myself, I can look back and go, that was my mindset in my 30s. Because, of course, it could completely change. We all grow, so I might have a completely different ideology. I might think, what the fuck was he talking about on that podcast? What was he talking about in that video? 50 lessons? What kind of shit's that? I've learned thousands now. But at the time, it's a lovely way to document your journey. Just fucking document something, man. I believe anybody should start a podcast. Again, create content. Your Instagram grid is exactly the same. Every video you post, it's almost like a timestamp of each individual date, what you were feeling like. Just be yourself. And it's meant for you as a log to go back to and reflect on. Reflect on the deals you do in business. Reflect on the posts you do make, and reflect on the episodes you make if you're in a podcast. Because, yeah, you probably will cringe. I'll look at the first episode I ever did, I believe, was with Tony Jeffries, Olympic boxer. I was nervous as fuck. I actually know Tony outside of podcasting as well. He was a client of mine, funny enough. And when I sat down and did a podcast with him, I was fucking shitting myself. And some of the questions were horrendous. Do you know what's mad? I'm going to tell you this now. I even dyed my hair white. I know, exactly. And I look back at that now and think, oh my God, mate, you look so nervous, ads. But when I look at that, I can also see the growth. And I can use it to go, what cringes out about that? It was the way I said every 2 seconds. It was the way I moved my arms up and down. It was the way I interrupted now and again. You can use the things you do, post, create, deals that you get into, relationships you get into. You can use the bad ones or the cringy ones to make you fucking better in your next one. Simple as that. So just to reflect on that, I do believe you should aim to be the best. Because I can't say you shouldn't aim to be the best. But the reason I've put that is, it's not about being the best, because that is just a vanity metric. That doesn't really mean it. If you're the best, really, what does it mean? Okay, you're the best, sound. What you should be focusing on for yourself is, I don't want to be the best. I want to be the most improved. Because that journey is so much better. Can you imagine, when it's all said and done, you can say, I went from this to this. That best piece isn't sustainable anyway. You can't be the best forever. Look at boxing. Look at the greatest boxers in the world. Well, you might think Muhammad Ali is the greatest boxer ever, but someone's going to say they're not. So it's subjective anyway. However, what you can't argue with, if someone someone was told they were never going to walk again, and now they were an Olympic sprinter, fucking hell, are we? Look at the progression on that. Look at the improvements on that. Again, to me, that's far more impressive, and I believe that if you aim for improvements, you might just end up being the best. Simple as that. So I've used this because it is a podcast quote, but it's fucking unbelievable. And the reason I say that is, the thing that gets you at episode 10 is not necessarily going to get you at episode 100, but this happens in life every time. The person that gets you from point A to B probably won't be the person who gets you from point B to C. And the reason I say that is because through life we evolve, we grow, but so do those people around us. And it's important to point that out. It's not just about you being the guy growing, it's about the people around you as well, and people want different things. And I know that when I started business, I work with a number of people who are not even in my circle now. But without them people, I wouldn't have got to the next stage. I've got clients that I worked with for the first year, and they got me to a certain level. But then I kind of got past that stage and grew a bit more. And those people couldn't really help me anymore, and I couldn't help them because we were just at different levels. Same as the podcast, like I mentioned earlier on. I had a certain team around us when I started the podcast, but they were kind of maxed out. They couldn't grow anymore, and I wanted to grow further. So then it was a case of them hopping off the train and me keep going. And then I met somebody else, and I met another team, and so often you'll find that people will hold on to that one thing. I've worked with this person for ages. This was my client for years. I can't lose them now. But often what you'll find is, if you remove that void will be filled by somebody better. Now think of this. Here's a bit of a quirky one for you. There's nobody ever really in history that has ever said, "Me ex is better than me current." You always want to move on, no matter what. It always happens, no matter what it is. So remember, the person who gets you from point A to point B isn't always going to be the person who gets you from point B to point C. So a bit like evolving, I said in the last piece there, you will change. It's inevitable. I know that, and I've put let your voice change, but physically you might sound different. And that's happened to me. You go back and watch. Click on oldest on this YouTube channel. Go back to the start. Watch a Tony Jeffries episode. You'll think, fucking hell, lads, you're a different person. You even sound different. Your accent sounds a little bit different. You're more rounded. You can keep up with conversations with bigger players now. And that's just purely down to experience. So just allow it, own it, and understand that's all growth. In business, if you remain stagnant and you don't seek growth or progression in any way, you'll understand there's a drop-off in your financial situation as well. Same as a podcast. If I don't grow as a person and I don't get better guests on and I don't be more consistent and keep that up, the actual channel itself will stop growing. You see it all the time. You see, how many channels do you see that were around years ago and they're not now? Somewhere along the way, they've faded out. They've stopped growing. That's because they've stopped growing. You can only fail if you stop growing. If you take whoever's watching this, right, if you take where you're at in your life right now, if you're not in a better position than when you were last year, there's something that you ain't doing right. You ain't got anywhere. Simple as that. That's the way it works. And if you're happy with that, that's fine. But understand you're not somebody who wants to grow, and that's absolutely fine. But if you're someone who wants to grow, wants to make more money, wants a bigger business, wants to start a brand, wants to grow on social medias, wants more followers, wants more clout, it doesn't matter what it is. If you are somebody who isn't in a better position now than what you were last year, but you haven't grown, have you? I made a post today in relation to this, funny enough, and it was, we're all fucking winging it. I think the quote was, even your favourite entrepreneur hasn't got a clue. And the reason I say that is, behind every bio is a fucking messy person. Because nobody has their shit together. I've met people who are worth hundreds of millions. I've met brand owners who've got stupid companies, absolute scandalous. But when you look at even their systems to a degree, or the way things are run, they're just having a go. They're just winging it. They don't know anything better than you. They don't know much more than you. Or maybe they do, but they still haven't got their shit together. You'll often find that and a lot of people won't see it, if you look at your favourite brand, I'm not going to mention names, but if you look at your favourite brand, if you had the chance of being a fly on the wall in that company, you'd understand that, fucking hell, this is how it's running here. I've been very privy to that over the years because of the nature of what I do for a living. So I've got to be in the room with people who, on paper and on social media, have got their shit together. They do this, they do that, they're achieving all these accolades, they've got all these things in life. But when you scratch it back, when you speak to them, you're like, I'm fucking clueless as well. That happens all over the board. So don't really give in to imposter syndrome. Just remember that if you feel like you don't deserve to be where you are, or you're struggling to be in the position you're in, or uphold the position that you are in, just remember that your favourite fucking idol hasn't got a clue either. A bit like what I said about protecting your energy. The ultimate flex is healing. The hustle culture is fucked. The hustle culture is absolutely fucked. And the reason I say that it's fucked is because why are we told to grind? And yes, there is working. We all have to work. I get it. But is it really protecting your energy? Getting up, doing a run at 4 o'clock in the morning, going to the gym at 5 till 6, doing 2 hours of work, going to do your 9 to 5 job, coming back, not seeing anybody, locking yourself in a room and grinding on your hustle. Fair enough. If that elicits growth and that gets you to where you want to be, but I can guarantee anybody who's did that path is going to have a miserable life. I've literally had extended periods in my life where that has been my life. In my experience, it may get you somewhere financially because you're literally outworking other people. But all this, like, I'm working while you're sleeping and all that, just pick something, do it consistently, and you'll grow. Nobody knows when they're going to die. Take 20 years to do it. If you know that's what you want, like, it's the same as a podcast. I don't need to hit 100,000 subscribers this year. I would fucking love to. I don't need to. I'll take 10 years to do it. and I'm going to beat anyone. How aren't I going to beat anyone? There's nothing on this planet that can stop me from growing. Because if I'm willing to do this for 10 years and someone wants a result in 10 weeks, I'm going to beast them every single time. You can do that in any facet of your life. So a lot of people disagree with this, and some people think that you can just be confident. Oh, I was always a confident person. No, you weren't. Not at all. How can you be confident in something that you've never done before? The only way to be confident or to gain confidence is to do something that you haven't done before. You will then give yourself proof that you've done the thing. When you've done that thing and you know you can do the thing, you will get confident at the thing. So if you're trying to build confidence in an area, win more clients. Try and get more clients. Deal with rejection more when they tell you to fuck off. How to get girls. Ask more girls on dates. Deal with them saying no. You will get better at asking girls to go on dates. It doesn't matter what it is. The only way to get why would you be confident at doing something you've never done before? The only way to gain confidence is by doing it. When I did the keynote a few weeks ago on stage in front of 550 people, I was absolutely bricking it. Do you know why? Because I've never done a podcast in front of 550 people. People were even saying, Ads, you seem confident. You don't seem... I'm thinking, well, you're fucking lying. I've never done this. How can I have confidence to do this? I've never done it before. The confidence comes in just doing it anyway and going through the shit. I was absolutely bricking it out there. You got to bear in mind, I was on stage with the likes of Daniel Priestley, Paul Mort, Sarah Davies, to name but a few. I'm suffering from all kinds of shit at this point. I'm like, imposter syndrome, whatever that is. I'm like, I shouldn't be here. Why am I on this stage? These have got millions of followers. They've done X, Y, and Z. They've made millions of pounds. I've never done any of that. But little lads from Sunderland can come on and step on that stage. So you know what I did when I was on stage? I took a minute and I thought, well, I'm fucking here, aren't I? And this audience, who's here, has came and they're watching me, and the only fucking thing I can do is fuck this up. Can you imagine how much that cripples your confidence? But I also knew that I'm here and I've got to get through this talk. I've got to do it regardless. But you know now, if someone said, Ads, come and do a talk in front of 1,000 people. Never done that before. But because you know what, I know I've done 550. I'll fucking nail it any day of the week. This is why you shouldn't be afraid to be your truth or tell your truth. You know when I said about the Content Life community and I put that post out and so many people related and I was just, well, all I can do is be myself. The story you tell, if it's authentic to you, well, for one, it's going to be cathartic. You're actually getting something off your chest. You're actually speaking. Well, for one, it's going to be cathartic. You're actually getting something off your chest. You're actually speaking. You know, you're actually telling someone who you are authentically. You're not lying to anyone. But secondly, that could literally help somebody be saved, because we're all looking for community. We're all looking for tribe. We're all looking for friends. We're all looking for people who share values. By you being you and telling your truth, there will be someone who relates to that. So and even if they don't reach out, they don't see it, they don't like it, they don't comment on it, if it's on social media, they don't tell you in the street, you might have just changed the way they think forever. And you may have made them think, you know what, I'm all right as well. Everything you do in life, no matter what, always be humble. The reason being is, if you are humble, you will find the knowledge, the wisdom, the pearls in anything. If you speak to someone like who you've never met before, you might be cleaning the toilets in a restaurant. Never think you're above that. Well, for one, you could be in that place yourself. You could end up doing the same job. So don't ever think you're above someone. But secondly, you can learn so much from anybody. Doesn't matter who they are. Doesn't matter if they're higher or lower on the chain of success. There is knowledge and wisdom in every fucker. And you don't know that person's situation either. So if you're humble, that's where you can learn the most. If you put that guard up and you're not humble, you're gonna fucking struggle in life. So I hope you all enjoyed those 50 quotes, and that's pretty much the majority of things that I could have thought of when I wrote them notes down, of all the things I learned from the guests, from actually doing a podcast, from starting a business, from starting a community, Doesn't matter what it is, there was so many things that I wanted to write down, and I did want to write a lot more, to be honest, but this video has probably been at least an hour now. So if you got this far, I do want to say thank you so much. If you did like it, and I will say this in the podcast, a lot of people who watch the content aren't even subscribed to this actual fucking podcast, which is mind blowing. So if you're one of them people and you unsub, stop being lazy, will you, and just let us know. Just hit the subscribe button. It does help us out absolutely loads. I didn't want to film these for the good of my health. But yeah, I hope you took something from that. If you did take something from this, do us a favour and just comment below your key take home, whatever it may be. Or if you're struggling with something yourself, please do let us know. And as well, what I just want to finish this off with, if you are somebody who has felt or can understand me, feel like what I used to feel like when I failed multiple businesses, needed that network, one of them, them people around us want to move the needle. Maybe you're feeling a bit sick of your job, you're feeling a bit empty inside, you've got fake friends. Doesn't fucking matter. If you feel like any of that and you want to be in a safe space where you can literally learn from people who've done it, what we do is, in the content life, we have literally got weekly calls, so that we call them lock-in calls. So every single Thursday at 6 o'clock, we'll basically get together on a Zoom call and just chop shit up, talk turkey, chew the fat, problems, what's been going on, talk about clients, how to get leads, content audits, how can we improve your content, how can we grow your social media, how can we win better work, how can we become better people, how do we improve our fitness, how do we come across better on camera, what equipment to buy, like literally. The fucking list goes on, but it doesn't just end there. Let's tell you about this right now. Listen, so once a month we have an industry leader, a fucking world beast, delivering a masterclass. The first one we had was Paul Mort. It was unbelievable. This man helps people get their shit together, and he delivered an absolute beast of a call. Once a month we have someone like that. So, and I've got these booked out every single month, and obviously every single week, like I say, we have the lock-in calls. But as well, and this sounds like a fucking mad pitch, but I need to tell you because I'm on this now. Because it's fucking unbelievable. I've been in a lot of communities and masterminds myself, and they're all absolutely shit. They really are. A lot of people talk shite and take your money, don't give you fucking nothing. You feel like you're in square one. And the final thing to add, which is something I wanted when I was on these other masterminds and mentorships, was content trips. I thought, wouldn't it be absolutely class if we could go to different places around the world to get me first camera I've ever bought, to fucking, if I want to grow my social media and want some class photos and videos and put better content out, wouldn't it be mint if I could go to some cool as fuck spots? Now, I've had the privilege of working all around the world, and I know quite a few people who've got some unbelievable locations, and they've allowed me to go there for these content trips. If you're someone who joins a community, it's probably going to change your life. And I'm not one of these people who talk shit and say you're going to make X amount a month, or I'm not saying you're going to make a single penny. However, because I've been through my journey and I know what I do know, I know now how not to fail and how to make an unbelievable life through content. So I hope you enjoyed the episode, guys. And if you did, like I say, do all the stuff that you need to, and till the next episode. Thank you.